Welcome, dear listener, to Driftwood Stories, where candlelight flickers in quiet windows and the cobblestone paths of the old world wind gently beneath your feet. Tonight, let us journey together into a tale whispered through the branches of forgotten forests, where moonlight kisses silver leaves, and secrets are carried on the backs of birds, in a time long past, under a sky woven with stars. A kingdom slumbered while golden apples vanished into the night. From the hush of royal gardens to the hush of enchanted glades, a quest begins, not of sword or pride, but of kindness, patience, and quiet courage. So draw the blankets a little closer. Let your breath slow like the turning of soft pages, and follow us now through dreams and riddles, through trials and twilight, into the shimmering world of the Golden Bird. Chapter 1. The Vanishing Apples. Long ago, in a kingdom cradled by whispering woods and time-worn hills, there stood a royal orchard unlike any other. It stretched behind the palace grounds like a painted dream, neat rows of trees heavy with fruit, their boughs bowing with the weight of abundance. In spring, the blossoms drifted down like snow. In autumn, the scent of ripe pears and plum wine hung thick in the air. But at the heart of this orchard, beyond a fence of curling ivy and wrought iron filigree, stood a single sacred tree. It was older than the castle, older than the village stones. No one knew who had planted it, only that it had always been there. Its bark shimmered like silver in moonlight, and its branches bore apples of pure gold. These were no ordinary treasures. Each golden apple ripened with the turning of the moon, just one, each month, glowing gently among the leaves as if lit from within. They were not plucked, not sold, not eaten. They were simply admired, symbols of peace, fortune, and the bond between the land and its ruler. But now they were vanishing. Night after night the royal guard stood watch beneath the silver tree, and night after night they found nothing but silence, until morning came and the golden apple was gone. No gates were breached, no footprints marked the dew. It was as though the apples had melted into the dark itself. The king, once a man of great laughter and strength, now sat often at his window, his face thin and grave. He called his sons to the great hall, the hearth low and flickering. "My sons," he said, his voice hushed, "our golden apples are being stolen. Not by man, I think, but by some enchantment. Whoever finds the thief and brings me the answer shall inherit this kingdom when I am gone." The eldest prince, Cedric, stepped forward at once. Tall, broad, and brimming with confidence, he wore a red cloak stitched with foxes and bore a sword that had never seen defeat. "I shall guard the tree tonight," Cedric said. "No creature escapes my blade." That evening, as the sky turned lavender and the owls began to stir, Cedric took his place beneath the silver tree. He paced, he watched, he yawned. The moon rose. The stars appeared like pinpricks in velvet. But the night was soft and warm. The breeze whispered lullabies through the branches. Cedric's shoulders slumped, and before the clock struck 12 he slept. By dawn the apple was gone. Next came Prince Alaric, the second-born. He was clever, sharp of tongue, dressed in green velvet, and always seen with a book beneath his arm. He climbed into the tree itself, hidden in the leaves, with a bough strung tight. He tied bells to the branches and scattered flour on the grass below. But just before midnight, a strange sound floated through the orchard. A melody, soft and slow, like wind chimes and water, drifting across the night. Alaric blinked. His limbs grew heavy. His thoughts faded like breath on glass. He slept, and once more the apple vanished. At last the youngest prince approached the throne. His name was Elias. He was not bold like Cedric, nor cunning like Alaric. He did not wear polished boots or speak loudly at court. He was gentle, with quiet eyes and a voice like soft rain. His tunic was plain, his smile rare but warm. "Let me try, father," Elias said. The king hesitated. "You are kind, my son, but kindness does not catch thieves." Still, Elias bowed low. Kindness listens where others shout. That night, Elias walked alone to the orchard. He carried no sword, no traps, no armour, only a satchel of oat bread, a blanket, and a lantern filled with beeswax light. He sat beside the tree, cross-legged in the grass, and watched the stars above sway gently behind the branches. The air was cool. The crickets sang softly. He waited and waited. Hours passed. Then the wind stilled. The air thickened. A golden shimmer danced between the trees, and out of the silence came a creature unlike any Elias had ever seen. It was a bird, but not truly. Its feathers blazed gold, each one like hammered light. Its eyes were deep amber, full of memory. It moved as if floating, silent and sure, trailing sparks in its wake. It landed delicately on a silver bough and tilted its head at Elias. They regarded one another, the boy and the bird, for a moment outside of time. Then the bird reached out with its beak and plucked the ripest golden apple. "Wait," Elias whispered. The bird paused. Its wings trembled slightly, catching starlight. Elias stepped forward. He made no move to catch it, no noise to frighten, only a gesture, palm open. The bird blinked slowly. Then, with a single beat of its wings, it soared upward, vanishing into the sky like a sunbeam slipping into night. But as it left, something drifted down. A feather, long, curved, golden. Elias caught it as it floated, warm in his hand. He stared at it, breathless, and he knew with the quiet certainty of dreams. The quest had begun. Chapter 2, The Fox and the Forking Road. The next morning the palace was full of hushed voices and wide eyes. Elias stood in the great hall, the golden feather resting in his palm like a sliver of sun. Even the king rose from his chair when he saw it. "This," Elias said gently, "is what I saw, a golden bird. It came not with fury or fire, but with silence. I spoke to it, and it listened." The eldest brothers scoffed, Cedric with folded arms, Alaric with narrowed eyes. "A feather," muttered Alaric, "not a capture, not a victory." But the king, though still grave, nodded. "This is no common prize. You have seen what others could not. And now," he looked out the window where a golden apple tree stood bare once more, "you must follow it." So Elias packed a satchel with bread, cheese, a flask of water, and the feather, tucked carefully inside linen. He wore a green cloak, stitched by his mother's hand, and boots worn soft by the garden paths of home. The king gave him a small coin purse and a single silver ring, and then Elias set out into the quiet world beyond the castle walls. The road began as stone, then turned to earth, then to moss. The trees leaned closer the farther he walked. Ferns lined the edges of the path, and birds called softly from branches high above. It was nearly midday when he reached a fork. One path curved left, wide, smooth, lined with poplars. The other veered right, narrow, rocky, half hidden in undergrowth. As Elias stood wondering, a rustle stirred behind a thicket. Then came a voice, low and dry as wind through leaves. "If it's the golden bird you seek, boy, best choose wisely. From the shadows stepped a fox, but not an ordinary one. Its fur was a deep russet touched with silver. Its eyes were moss green, and when it spoke again, Elias felt the words not just in his ears, but somewhere deeper, like the fox was speaking to his thoughts. "Most take the easy road," said the fox, circling slowly. "They find nothing but brambles and pride. The hard path, though rough, wins closer to the truth." Elias blinked. "And how would you know?" The fox sat on its haunches. "I know many things. I have watched princes ride past on fine horses, faces full of fury. I have watched them return or not." Elias looked down each road again. Then he looked at the fox. "Will you come with me?" The fox tilted its head. "No one has asked that before." Elias said nothing more, only turned toward the narrow path. After a moment, the fox rose and followed. The way grew steep. Thorns scratched at Elias's sleeves, roots curled from the ground like sleeping serpents. But the air smelled of pine and soil, and in its silence Elias found calm. They walked for hours. "Why does the bird steal the apples?" Elias asked at last. The fox gave a sound that might have been a chuckle. "Perhaps it is not stealing. Perhaps it is returning them." "To where?" The fox didn't answer. By dusk the path opened to a meadow, pale grass swaying, the sky a soft wash of lavender and gold. And in the centre of the field stood a gate. It was old, iron twisted into the shape of vines and birds, though rust ate at its hinges. Behind it lay a ruined garden, and beyond that a crumbling stone hall, half swallowed by ivy. "The bird passed here," said the fox, sniffing the air, "but beware, the halls remember sorrow." Elias pushed the gate. It creaked open with a groan. The air beyond was cool and still. Inside the hall, time had stopped. Dust hung in shafts of fading light. Paintings stared from broken frames. A harp, long unplayed, leaned crooked in a corner. On a pedestal at the far end stood a tall cage, empty now, but within it lay another golden feather. And beside the pedestal, footsteps, not one set but many. Boots, heavy, recent. "Others have been here," Elias whispered. The fox's ears twitched. "You are not the only one hunting." Just then, from a side passage came a sound, boots crunching stone, cloaks swaying, low voices. Elias ducked behind a pillar. Two men passed, clad in dark mail, their eyes sharp and searching. One held a net woven of fine gold thread. "King Aldemar must have the bird," one said. "No matter who else seeks it." The other grunted. "That boy prince from the southern realm is near. If he finds it first." Their voices trailed off. Elias's heart pounded. The fox emerged from the shadow. "You see now, not all who chase wonder do so gently." They left the hall in silence, the second feather tucked safely away. As the stars returned overhead, Elias looked down at the fox. "Will you still guide me?" The fox's eyes gleamed. "So long as you keep listening." And so they walked on into the deepening night. Chapter 3. The Gilded Cage. They travelled by starlight. The forest changed with every mile, oaks giving way to birches, then to tall, whispering pines. The ground softened beneath moss and frost-bitten leaves, and the air thinned, touched with the distant scent of snow. Here the world was quieter. Time slowed, and the trees grew farther apart, as if stepping aside to let something through. By morning they reached the edge of a high vale. Mist clung low to the earth, and ahead, where the hills parted like opening hands, lay a manor of golden stone. Its towers pierced the pale sky, and its windows shimmered faintly with frost. Around it curled glass-domed gardens, their frames wound with ivy and sleeping roses. "The aviary of Varel," said the fox, "a sanctuary of wings and song, ruled by a queen with memory like mirrors." "Is the golden bird here?" Elias asked. The fox's ears twitched. It passed this way. Whether it stayed, that is another matter. They walked the final stretch as the first rays of sun gilded the eastern slopes. At the main gate, 2 guards in plum-coloured cloaks stood silently, their spears crossed, eyes unreadable. Elias stepped forward and bowed. "I seek a bird, gold of feather, light of wing. It came to me once. I believe it may have flown to your halls." The guards made no reply, but a rustle came from the path beyond, followed by a voice, clear and low. "Let him enter." She moved like someone long acquainted with silence. Queen Meralda emerged from the misted garden walk, her gown pale as cream, her hair the colour of river light. Her crown was made of silver twigs and dewstones. Though her face bore the grace of age, her eyes, cold and curious, seemed untouched by time. "I am Meralda," she said, "and I know why you have come." Elias bowed once more. "Then you have seen it?" She nodded. 3 nights ago it came, like a breath through the glass. It landed on my shoulder while I stood among the night orchids. I did not move, I dared not, for in its eyes was sorrow so vast, it nearly stopped my heart. "Did it speak?" Meralda smiled faintly. "Not in words, but in presence. I have ruled this place for 3 decades, young prince, and no visitor has ever made me feel so utterly seen." She turned, and Elias followed her through the gardens. Birdsong rose in waves. There were aviaries shaped like domes, others like towers, each filled with rare and wonderful birds. A turquoise parakeet sang lullabies in a forgotten tongue. A white crow watched them with clever eyes. A pair of songbirds with mirror-glass feathers danced from branch to branch, as if echoing each other's thoughts. "Every bird here was given freely," the queen said. None were taken. That is our rule. At last they reached the central dome, vast and quiet, its ceiling high and curved like a cathedral. At its centre stood a tall cage, wrought of black iron and filigreed with ivy. The bars shimmered faintly with enchantment. Inside was no bird, only a single golden ribbon, looped and drifting slowly on the still air. "It landed here," Meralda whispered. "It stepped inside, not because I wished it, but perhaps to show me something. When I turned to speak, it was gone. Only this remained." Elias approached the cage. As he reached through the bars, the ribbon curled gently toward his fingers, as if stirred by his presence. He touched it, and a soft sound, not quite music, filled the dome. A vibration, a breath. "It left this behind," the Queen said, "but I think it was never meant to stay. Not here, not anywhere with walls." Elias turned to her. "Others have tried to capture it. Why do you protect it?" Meralda's gaze deepened. "Because I too was once caged, not by bars, but by expectation, by silence, by a name I did not choose. I know the pain of being seen only for what others desire. The golden bird, it is not meant for crowns and cages." She stepped closer. "But you, I think, you see differently." Elias nodded, slow and sure. "I do not wish to take it, only to understand." The Queen touched the edge of the cage. "Then you may carry what it left. The ribbon is yours, but take care, it remembers." That night Meralda offered Elias a room in the West Tower, with windows overlooking the moonlit hills. He slept little, wrapped in thought. The ribbon lay across the table beside him, glowing faintly. In the garden below, birds sang to one another across domes of glass. Near the hearth, the fox lay curled, its eyes open. "Why does it flee?" Elias asked, voice barely more than a breath. The fox stirred. "It flees not out of fear, but out of knowing. There is a cost to being wanted." "I don't want to trap it." The fox rose, padding over to sit at the foot of the bed. "Then perhaps it will let you follow." In the stillness, Elias took the ribbon and tied it gently around his wrist. It pulsed, warm against his skin, like a memory or a promise. By dawn he was ready. They left through the frost-touched gardens, the air sharp with morning. Queen Meralda met them at the gate. She offered no farewell, only a steady look and a single word, "Listen." As they descended the vale, the fox padded close beside him. The next trial waits. Fire and sleep, a steed bound in dreams, and a tower where time no longer breathes. Elias did not flinch. He looked ahead, where the mists rose and the mountains darkened, and he walked on, quiet, steady, and changed. Chapter 4. The Tower of Fire and Sleep. The road to the mountains was narrow and old. Elias and the fox travelled for many days, the land rising around them in long folds of shadow and snow. Pines lined the path like silent sentries, their branches heavy with frost. The stars seemed sharper here, and the wind carried a hush that spoke of forgotten things. They crossed wooden bridges that creaked over deep ravines, past stone wells choked with ivy, and followed deer trails where no cart had ever gone. The fox moved ahead, always silent, always watchful. On the fourth day, They came to a clearing, ringed by pale stones, each marked with symbols half worn by rain. At its centre stood a blackened tree, leafless and charred, yet unfallen. Beneath it the earth had cracked open, revealing a stair spiralling down into darkness. "This is the path," said the fox, "but it does not go forward, it goes beneath." They descended in silence. The air grew still and dry. The walls were carved with scenes of riders on winged horses, of fire leaping from mountain peaks, of eyes half closed in endless sleep. At the bottom they emerged into a vast chamber, a hollow heart of the earth, and there, standing amid coils of smoke and embered stone, was a horse, but no ordinary horse. Its mane blazed with living flame, sparks drifted from its hooves with every breath, yet its eyes were shut, and its body still, as if held in slumber. It was bound by chains of crystal, not heavy but shimmering, and over its form lay a web of dreams. Elias could feel it in the air. This was no prison of iron. It was a sleep cast by sorrow. "The horse of fire," the fox whispered. "Its dreams are tied to the golden bird. To wake one is to understand the other." Elias stepped forward. The moment he touched the flame horse's muzzle, the world changed. He was no longer in the cavern. He stood in a great golden field, beneath a sky split between dusk and dawn. The horse galloped ahead, mane streaming like sunlight, and high above it, flying in circles, was the golden bird. They moved together, one of earth, one of sky, two halves of a whole. Then the field darkened. From the hills came riders in black cloaks, bearing nets and spears. They cast them upward, and the bird screamed, a sound like splintering light. The horse reared, flames leapt high, and Elias understood. They were guardians of each other. The golden bird was no thief. It had been protecting the horse, hiding the truth in riddles and riddles in flight. He opened his eyes. The chamber remained, but now the flames on the horse's mane danced freely. The chains cracked like glass and fell. The horse opened its eyes, bright, endless, gold. It stepped forward and bowed, then it vanished into fire. In its place, where it had stood, lay a single strand of golden mane, and beneath it a key. Elias took the key and turned to the fox. "It sleeps no longer." The fox's eyes gleamed, "and neither soon will she." They left the chamber. Night had fallen above, crisp and clear. They followed a narrow path now, winding ever upward. The stars wheeled overhead, and the mountain air grew thin. By the time the moon reached its highest point, they came to a tower, tall, narrow, veiled in vines. No door marked its base. Only a stair of carved stones spiraled to a high balcony, where candlelight flickered behind ancient glass. At the foot of the stair sat a man, or what remained of one. He was not dead, but still. Stone had crept over his body, beginning at his toes, rising slowly over years. Only his eyes moved. "A curse lies in the tower," he rasped. "It is beautiful, but it will not let you go." Elias stepped forward. "I must enter," he said softly. The man closed his eyes. "Then leave your name behind, for you may not return with it." Elias placed a hand to his chest, as though parting with something unseen. Then he climbed. The steps were worn, etched with time. At the top stood a single door, locked. He reached into his satchel and took the key left by the firehorse. It turned with a soft click. The door creaked open. Inside, moonlight poured across marble floors. Vines curled along the ceiling. Petals drifted in slow motion, though no wind stirred them, and at the centre of the chamber lay a bed of white wood and glass. Upon it slept a girl. She was not older than Elias, nor younger. Her hair lay like shadow round her shoulders, and her face bore no sorrow, only quiet, endless rest. A golden feather glowed at her side. Elias stepped near. The ribbon on his wrist warmed. The feathers in his satchel shimmered. The room seemed to wait. He reached out, not to wake, not to disturb, but simply to hold her hand, and as he touched her skin, the silence broke. The candlelight trembled. The vines began to curl upward, and her eyes opened, slowly, as though waking from a dream she had never known she was dreaming. Elias smiled, though he said nothing, and the girl, blinking once, whispered, "I heard your voice in the forest." Then the chamber faded into dawn. Chapter 5, Return of the Golden Light. Dawn broke over the tower like spilled gold. The sky, once pale and waiting, now blazed with gentle colour, soft pinks and quiet blues, as if the world itself had taken a breath after a long silence. Elias and the girl stood at the tower's high window, the wind tugging softly at their cloaks. Below, the forest shimmered in the early light, and the path home lay clear. "Do you remember your name?" Elias asked her. She turned to him slowly and smiled, not with certainty, but with peace. "I think I will remember it when I reach the place I'm meant to be." They left the tower together, the fox at their heels, moving without hurry, as though the very rhythm of the earth had slowed to let them pass. When they reached the edge of the mountains, Elias looked back only once and saw the tower crumble like mist, vanishing into the rising sun. For the curse had broken, not with a sword, not with fire, but with kindness and patience and the courage to listen. By the time they neared the kingdom's edge, word had travelled ahead of them. Birds flew from village to village, whispering of a prince and a golden flame. Children left apples on window-sills in hopes of a glimpse. Old women lit candles in honour of dreams long held. And the golden bird, it flew above them, always just at the edge of sight, never far, never near, watching, guarding, but not caged. At the gates of the castle, Elias's brothers stood waiting. Cedric was silent, his jaw set. Alaric looked down, fingers twitching near the edge of his fine belt. They said nothing as Elias passed. The king stood in the courtyard, a cloak around his shoulders, his face drawn and grey. But when he saw Elias, alive, changed, and carrying no trophies, something in his eyes softened. "Did you bring the bird?" he asked quietly. "No," said Elias. "I brought the truth." He stepped aside, and the girl moved forward, her feet bare, her eyes clear. She bowed once, not as subject to crown, but as moon to sea. She spoke, and her voice was like wind through grass. "The bird is not to be owned, nor am I." She told the court of the curse, of the horse of fire, The dream chains, the tower built of silence and forgetting. And she told them of Elias, who asked no questions but listened, who took nothing but gave everything. When she finished, the court was still. Then the king stepped forward. He looked long at Elias, not with pride but with understanding. For the first time he saw not a son but a king, and he placed the silver ring, once given in parting, into Elias's hand again. Not for rule, he said, but for remembrance. That night a great fire was lit in the orchard. Villagers gathered. Musicians played quiet tunes. No one spoke of thrones or crowns or golden things. They spoke of peace, of paths taken slowly, of dreams returned, and in the high boughs of the silver tree the golden bird perched once more. It did not sing. It only sat, still, radiant, as if resting. Elias stood with the girl beneath the branches. "You said you would remember your name," he said softly. She smiled. "I think I do." She took his hand. Above them the golden apple tree bloomed, not with fruit, but with light, and in that glow the land remembered its old magic. Not loud, not sudden, but deep, lasting, true.